Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Finance and Revenue Committee meeting, December 8th at 6:45. Bernie Flynn, Chair, Mr. William Scott, Mr. Nick Allen, Department Head Barbara Leonti, Mr. Michael A. Perone, Borough Manager. Going to the second item on the list, comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items that are not on the agenda. Anyone have anything? Okay. Moving on to number 3, consider approving resolution to the borough's fee schedule.
So at last month's Finance Committee meeting, the committee was in favor of making changes under the Public Works Department for the 20-gallon recycling containers, traffic control devices, and setup and breakdown of fees, as well as increasing both stream protection fees and sewer certification fees charged. At this month's meeting, we are requesting to make changes under the building permits, electrical permits, and plumbing permits section. We're asking the committee to change under the building permits to change the 1 and 2 family dwellings to change the fees from $79.50 to $80. Under the electrical permits, the first $1,000 worth of work to increase the fee from $54.50 to $80. And then under plumbing permits, the 1 and 2 family dwellings increase the fee from $59.50 to $80, and the multifamily and non-residential base fee from $104.50 to $154.50. And the reason we're asking this increase, these fees haven't been increased in quite some years, and it also keep the permit fees consistent across the board in all the categories.
Mr. Allen, are you okay with that? Mr. Scott? Very good, thank you. It's a 3-0 agreement on that.
Is this, I noticed the bulk trash was red. Is that also a change for this month?
The bulk trash is going to be talked about on Tuesday, right, Barb?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, we're not talking about that tonight. We're going to go over the, like the mattresses, the box springs, anything over 75 pounds, that kind of stuff on Tuesday, because we couldn't come to an agreement of what it actually was happening. We also got some more information today in a meeting on actually tipping fees. So we'll share that on Tuesday night.
This is from Public Works?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah. Anyone in the audience have discussed about the new fees? Thank you very much. Number 4, November 2021 financials.
If we start on page 1, looking at the Treasury report for the month of November, we started the month with $17,226,25 in cash. We brought in $4,755,085 in receipts. We spent $5,019,709, and we ended the month with $16,956,001. Of this $16 million cash number, $11.6 million is restricted for special purposes that cannot be used to fund general operations of the borough. So this leaves us with about $5.3 million that we can use to fund the operations within the general fund, sewer, parking, and stream protection. Looking at the information on the attached reports.
Barb, can you hold on for a second?
Sure.
Just delve into that for a second. The $5.3 million, that would pay our everyday bills for the month of December?
That would, yes, for the operations within the general fund, sewer, parking, and
Right.
stream protection.
So moving, well, we're in December now, all of a sudden, the brain freeze, I forgot, it's not, because we're looking at November's numbers. But
Correct.
we actually have $5.3 million to use to pay bills in December. And our normal month is about $3 million.
It's a little bit under that, but if you'll forgive me, we will get to that in a little bit. I'm
Okay.
just going to
All right.
go through.
Thank you.
So looking at the attached report for the year ended November 30th, We had actual revenues of 30,876,081. This is offset by actual expense of 28,039,020. This leaves us with a net income for the year ended of 2,837,061. Looking at the highlights for the year ended November 30th, EIT has come in over budget by $282,000. The EIT .25 pension liability paydown has also come in over budget by $191,000. The transfer tax has also come in over budget by $298,000. As of November 30th, both the police and the non-uniform MMOs have been fully funded, and we were also able to transfer $247,000 into the OPEB fund. The above revenues that I just mentioned that are over budget will help offset some of expense line items that were spent, as well as revenues that will not meet budget by year end. We are expecting some general fund revenues that will not meet budget. We're expecting general fund revenues to not meet budget by about $238,000. These line items are in the violation of ordinances, police alarms, restitution, and building permits. We also do have some expense line items that are over appropriations at this point in time. That's within the police overtime, which is projected to be about $70,000 overspent, as well as service contracts in the Public Works Department. Looking to the year end 12/31/2021, we do have our $2.5 million Santander short-term note that is due on December 15th. We do have 2 payrolls within the month of December, which do include special payouts to employees per the contracts. And we do have our normal bills that have to be by year end. Looking to end the year and start 22, we're looking to end the year with about $160,000 in general fund cash. This obviously is not going to be enough to fund the operations from January to March. Typically, revenues come in very lightly in the first 3 months of the year. We do not anticipate getting any tax revenues until March of 22. So I am asking the committee tonight, instead of borrowing from a bank and paying interest on that term, I would ask that we could borrow money from the capital operating reserve. The committee grants this request. I would provide reporting each month that would show what has been transferred, what has been spent, and what has been transferred back. And I would set a date of June 1st to pay that back in full.
Thanks, Barb. That's my biggest fear. Knowing that the past 2 years, the position that we've been in because of that, and we actually spent $50,000 in interest and fees borrowing $2.5 million from a bank last year. And talking to Mr. Metrick about it, he feels that if we borrow from ourselves, my biggest fear is that we won't pay it back. COVID zebra show up, and we'll be in a next pandemic. We're at O now. So how can we? Do we have to set it? Can we set something, a resolution or an ordinance or something that will make council pay back whatever we borrow by June?
I guess I'm approaching this decision and problem that we have to solve with a little more faith. I say that respectfully.
Good.
I think we should give a succinct accounting every month of any dollars that are moving from the capital operating reserve fund to the general fund, and an accounting of dollars moving back from general fund to the capital operating reserve fund. Because of the conservative investment policy council put in place on the fund, we earned about 1.7% interest on $8.4, which is more or less like $130 2021. So that works out to maybe about $10,000 to $12,000 per month. That's a pretty reliable stream of income because those investments are really conservative and highly liquid too.
Yep.
So there is a cost to doing this, and it's an opportunity cost, meaning the dollars that aren't going to sit in the capital operating reserve aren't going to be making 1.7% interest. So we anticipate financing costs or in the form of opportunity costs, but at a much lower rate than we would out and paid a commercial lender to give us the money on a short-term loan. What was the interest rate, Barb, for the short-term loan? Santander? I know short-term rates are pretty high.
I don't
think
have
it's
that.
3.9,
I
sound
wanna
about right to
say-
you?
I was going to say it was close to 4.
I believe so.
4% or close to, very close to 4.
So why pay 4% interest to a bank? You can incur an opportunity cost, which you don't have to realize on your balance sheet, but it just means the capital operating reserve fund will earn, instead of $135,000 next year, it may earn $105,000 or $110,000 next
Right.
year. Why not do that option rather than pay
50,000. Yeah.
that goes out and never comes back?
Right.
Interest is the least beneficial expense on any on any enterprise. What do you get for interest?
Very low.
Nothing.
Yeah,
You don't get
very
anything back for interest.
Right. Yeah, I fully, early on, Nick, Mr. Allen, if you remember, that was something we really, really didn't ever want to touch, was the capital reserve fund. If we would have jumped into that last year, before, it could be in a worse position, financial position now. But like I said, my biggest fear is that under the restrictions that we have with Santander, we have to pay them back because we have a written contract. I would like to have a written contract with us based on paying it back. And I know that we have a loan policy of 1.79% interest rate. I shopped that 8.4 million with 4 different banks in the area, and they couldn't touch that 1.79, even though it seems like it's nothing. They would be 0.45% that they could even offer us because it has to be liquid. And it says in our lending policy, our banking policy, that interest rates don't matter. It's the safety of the money that has to be paramount. So like I said, I would feel better personally that somehow we have a mechanism that guarantees that the finance department makes sure that the commitment's made by June. I don't know what you're feeling, Mr. Scott, Mr. Allen. Yeah, Mr. Scott.
So one of the first things I had to do back in 1998, when I first came on council, was I prepared a resolution concerning what we called the water company money. Talked about making sure the money gets back in and so forth and so on. Now nobody goes to jail if they violate a resolution, but if you want something in writing, that's the closest thing you can get. I think just to make you happy, we ought to have one. Next week.
Yeah. Mr. Allen, what do you think?
Well, borrowing from ourselves is, I've always thought that was going to be the best idea. So I'm fully behind that. But I'm happy to do that. I don't see someone's making an agreement with themselves. I have a hard time seeing that as binding, right? We can't restrict future councils, but I think it makes sense to do just to make the intent even more clear than it would be if we.
May I say, is it possible to return 1/6 of the money every month through June of next year?
We don't actually get our tax anticipation money or
Our
until
taxes.
March. We don't start getting our first check till March, and then we get one in September, right?
No, we get them each month, but
Oh, we
the
do?
tax bills don't go out until February.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't get our first remittance until March, which would be still under the low side. April is when we would get our large chunk of money.
Well, we should pay ourselves back by no later than June, is what you're saying.
Correct, that's what I'm proposing.
Mr. Metric, three of us agree that we should have some sort of resolution. Not only does the council would understand it, the residents would understand it, that we have agreed to borrow from ourselves and then have a promissory note that we'll pay it back by X amount. I think it keeps it clean. Mayor-elect, come on up. Please introduce yourself and
Scott Teese, I live in Westchester. 16
Thank you.
Wal- So it would appear to me that in any said, but it seems to me that if this is a loan, part of the of having a loan, so you're talking loss opportunity. Perhaps that loss opportunity 7-9% gained by having an account should be assessed to this loan, so that when you pay yourself back, you're getting the benefit rate, but also
thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Allen, thank you for that. Mr. Scott, appreciate it. Mayor-elect, appreciate your comments. Thank you. So Barb, we've agreed to 3-0 to move forward with that with a binding resolution
Thank you.
of payback, okay? Thank you. Are you finished with your financials there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Mr. Scott, do you have any questions? Mr. Allen? Good, thank you. Approve the November 2021 minutes. Mr. Allen, you okay with it? Mr. Scott, you go with it? Excellent. I have one item for other business, Mr. Metric. The Downtown Westchester BID, Business Improvement District, has initiated a Touch a Truck event for this weekend, for Sunday, from 11 to 2 p.m. The BID and the Chamber are hosting a Touch a Truck program, Chestnut and Church Streets, which is in Lot 10. Westchester Police, ambulance, vehicles, fire department, firefighters, the whole thing that we do at a cost to the borough of $4,000 every year. Last year, we budgeted last year we budgeted $1,500. The Parks Department overran that $1,500 to $4,000. So my thought under other businesses, we're looking at next year, the BID and the Chamber are going to have the same event that we're having, exact same event, just later in the year. That $4,000 could be used better in our parks, instead of doing a duplication of effort. So that's part of the other business. It looks like the BID and the Chamber are going to continue to Touch a Truck moving forward. All right, it's food for thought, that's all. That 4,000 could plant trees or put mulch in or whatever. That came up today, so it's not like it's a surprise, but that it was there. And the bid, and I'm on the bid, Mr. Scott's on the bid, and we didn't know anything about it. So it was in their newsletter. So thank you. What I would like to do is, first of all, thank Mr. Allen and Mr. Scott for two very, very, very extremely long years on the Finance Committee. We met more often than probably any committee in the borough. We met almost weekly because we didn't know how to fix or how to overcome this COVID mess that we were in. But we worked together as a unit along with the finance department and administration, and we got through it. And I want to publicly thank you, Mr. Allen, Mr. Scott, for always being there, you know, with fresh ideas on what we could do and what we couldn't do. We didn't always agree on how to do it, but we always came to a common consensus for the better of the borough. I want to thank you two guys for doing it. So we have nothing else. Oh, Mr. Scott.
Yes. Along that same line, I'd like it to be noted that after 16 years on Borough Council that I've served, if you multiply it out, 3 meetings a week, and I very rarely missed a meeting. Very rarely got to them on time, but very rarely missed a meeting. That comes to 288 meetings. And this is my last council committee meeting. And I'm so overwhelmed with emotion that I just want to thank everybody for, I don't know what. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott, for your service. And, you know, the borough appreciates the 20-some years that you've given us of your time and treasure. We do. Mr. Allen?
Yeah, I'll definitely echo that. It's been a heck of a 2 years. I love numbers and I like finance. So being on this committee made sense. I just had no idea what I was getting into. None of us did back in January of 2020. So it's been a hell of a time, to put it lightly. And yeah, meeting weekly was exhausting, but we probably had, you know, enough financial change for a year happening every week. So yeah, I do appreciate your willingness and your time to meet as often as we did. And I gotta say, like, thinking back in summer of 2020 to where we are now and where we've set ourselves up to be, you know, in a couple years from now, even, I think is really impressive. So looking forward to hopefully staying on Finance Committee moving forward. I enjoy this one. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Barbara, thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thank you.
And adjourned. Thank you.